welcome to South First. I'm Shilpa Nair, and joining me today is Congress MP Karti Chidambaram, someone who's very outspoken even when it comes to affairs of his own party, scathing in his criticism against the BJP, and someone, of course, who's constantly under the radar of the central investigative agencies. So, many thanks for speaking to us. Let me begin with the news of the day. The Supreme Court today has said that they are ready to reconsider two specific provisions of the PMLA, which is of course not providing the ECIR and also the reversal of the presumption of innocence. You were the one who filed the review petition. Why did you file the review petition? How crucial is the outcome going to be?
My petition really speaks for itself. It's a very lengthy petition. It's been drafted under the guidance of very senior lawyers. Mr. Kapil Sibil is a legal scholar by himself, and he settled the petition, and he's argued this petition before the Supreme Court today. See, this is not just concerning me personally. This is a wider legal issue. It has constitutional ramification. It has ramifications about individual liberty. It requires serious legal minds to address this issue, and I'm very glad that the Supreme Court has decided to look into two aspects, because I do not know the details of the order, of two aspects of the judgment which was given in July. So I have no further comments about it, but it is a necessary legal debate which needs to be reopened and re-looked at.
Speaking about agencies, you're someone who said probably you're the only person in India who's been raided so many times by the
That is a fact. I think you should.
In fact, this office has seen so many raids.
I think that's a fact. I mean, I do not know of anybody else who's been raided as much as me. The first raid on me was conducted on December 1st, 2015. And subsequently, I've been raided on a total basis of 8 times. I do not know of anybody being raided 8 times.
There's also an anniversary raid.
They just keep raiding me. I think as I've said, my daughter's entire educational career, right from say standard 10 to standard 12 to college and to graduation, has been peppered with raids. So it's almost become farcical, the number of times I've been raided, and the standard statements which these agencies will always give. They'll always say they've found incriminating documents and electronic devices. It's laughable. Which house does not have an electronic device? I mean, anybody having a phone, just a mobile phone is an electronic device, and they will just seize all the electronic devices. In fact, I've come to the stage where I've stopped buying computers, because every 6 months they come and take away my computer. So I think there's no purpose even buying a new computer. I mean, I think they have three computers of mine, which they don't give back anything as well. So it's this whole raid, it serves no investigative purpose. It's only for theatrics. It's for the voyeuristic pleasure of somebody else. It's for the media. It actually aids in nothing for a legitimate investigation, if there is a legitimate investigation. And in my case, I believe there is no legitimate investigation itself. There's only harassment.
But it's not just you. Even recently, Sonia Gandhi, the Congress president, Rahul Gandhi, there was a huge protest in Delhi as well by Congress across the country, and other opposition leaders too. What is the role of these central agencies in India today?
Today, particularly the Enforcement Directorate, the ED, is like the Gestapo or the SS of Nazi Germany, or one of these agencies of military juntas, which is only used to harass political opponents. If you just put out a chart on the kind of raids the ED conducts or the kind of cases they file, you'll see a clear pattern. I mean, yesterday, the Bihar Assembly has a vote of confidence, and they go and raid one of the principal political parties' members there. So it's everything is political. This is not a neutral agency. This is not a professionally independent agency which is carrying out legitimate investigation. I mean, their track record is abysmal, and the kind of people who man this agency are also not permanent cadre. In fact, they come from other agencies for a short while, and they are just used as hatchet men. And the people who head these agencies are handpicked by the government of the day, and this government is well known to misuse these agencies to the hilt.
And coming to the parliament, of late we're seeing opposition MPs being suspended left, right, and centre every time they want a discussion, every time they start a protest inside the well of the house. They are, suspended. How do you see? How has it changed the parliamentary proceedings? How has it changed over the years?
See, I can't speak for another parliament because I'm after all a first-time parliamentary member.
Sure.
In parliament, in parlance, it's always known that the government can have its way, but the opposition must have its say. Because the government is the government because it has the majority. The BJP is obviously a very deeply insecure party. I mean, even though they have 303 members of their own, they simply do not want the voice of a minority. We are a minority in parliament. The Congress party is only 52 odd members to be heard in parliament. So I do not know what's their insecurity. Why don't they just allow us to raise whatever issues we want to raise? Because eventually when it comes to a vote, they're going to win, especially with the system we have in India of a parliamentary whip where everybody votes according to the party's diktat. There is no way on earth any diktat or any whip of the BJP can be defeated. So they might as well allow us to have a say. They don't simply want us to air our opinion, views and bring it on record. So they always disallow any adjournment motion we want to bring, any topic we want to discuss. The agenda is only set by them. They never accommodate us. And that's why there's gridlock in parliament. That's why we don't have debates in parliament. Because the choice of topics is always decided by the government and we don't have any leeway or any discretion in doing that. And that's the problem. And that's the reason is the BJP is insecure. They can win every parliamentary vote because they have the numbers, but they still do not want to have a legitimate debate or allowing the airing of views by opposition. So it's really incumbent upon them to create an atmosphere in parliament where we can actually have constructive debate, even though the constructive debate eventually won't lead to anything because the BJP will always have its way.
Apart from allowing the opposition to function, the other big debate is also about federalism. Do you think today in India, federalism is alive and kicking?
See, we are a federal country. I do firmly believe that we are a union of states. I am a firm believer in the rights of states and in the authority state governments have. And that's what our constitution says as well. We are a union of states. That's why we call it a union government. That's why you said you're a union minister. That's why you're saying it's a union budget.
So you call an anti-national for calling it.
The BJP, of course, is very, very adept at coming up with terms which one uses in order to prove one's patriotism or to prove that one is not patriotic. Anyway, but the point is we are a union of states. That's why the word union is repeated in number of references when it addresses the central government. So I think that the fact that every time there's been a dominant party in the center, there has been tendencies for centralization of power and centralization of authority. But even so more now in this government, because it's not only the centralization of power in the government, it's actually centralization of power at the PMO. Please understand, this government is being run almost presidentially. It's not being run parliamentary. Ministers do not have authority here. Ministers do not know what's happening there. I can give you a number of examples on that. For example, as far as demonetization was concerned, the finance minister of the day would not have known anything about it. If you looked at the withdrawal of the farm laws, the agriculture minister did not know about it. So there is no authority with the ministers now. This is not a government run by cabinet. This is a government run by the PMO, almost in a presidential style, through hand-picked bureaucrats, particularly ones who have worked in Gujarat, who are very familiar with the prime minister when he was chief minister there, and they run it through diktats to them. So the federalism debate is even more valid today because there's so much centralization of authority into one office.
And again, with the federalism debate, there's also the debate of freebies. Suddenly the union government is talking about it. The Supreme Court is hearing a case about it. What is your take?
See, this word freebie itself is in my opinion a code word to other some people. See, you got first and foremost this debate saying that, oh, we are taxpayers, why should we subsidize somebody else? That must stop. Who are these taxpayers? Everybody thinks income taxpayers are the only taxpayers. That is wrong. Every single person in this country pays tax. If you came here in a cab, you paid tax for that ride. If the cab driver filled his tank with petrol, he paid tax on that petrol. If there is a woman who's working as a domestic help, goes to a shop to buy biscuits for a child, she's paying tax on the biscuit. There is not a single person in this country who is not paying taxes. So this debate of these people who quote-unquote pay income tax, saying that they're somehow paying taxes for the rest of the nation is complete humbug. Everybody pays tax. So it's the duty of the government, and especially in a government, in a society which is not equal, to make sure that everybody gets an even playing field. So there are many subsidies in this country. Subsidies are not just freebies. I mean, the fact that if you study in a government medical college, you hardly pay any fees. If you study in IIT, you hardly pay any fees. That is also a subsidy. So we can have a debate about saying that what kind of subsidies society must give. And that is a debate which society, political parties, economists, thinkers, everybody must evolve to come. In a certain society, a particular subsidy might be welcome, might be necessary, but in another society, it might not necessarily be welcome or necessary. And everything can't be looked at purely from some sort of an academic, economic prism alone. It can't. I mean, you have to see whether this subsidy promotes a certain social cause, whether it is empowering, whether it brings about greater public good. So the word freebie, it can't be just used colloquially to sort of think that anybody who gets anything from government is somehow getting it unfairly, and it is being paid for by somebody's sweat and blood. It's being paid by everybody's sweat and blood. There is not a single person in this country who doesn't pay tax. So to say somehow, so this debate is being sidetracked conveniently by the BJP, but I don't think they're winning this debate.
But is there one rule for the BJP and another?
Absolutely, there's one rule for the BJP in everything else, even in terms of how the ED behaves. There is a rule how how people are treated, and there is definitely a difference in how the BJP uses these words to attack the opposition, while their state governments also provide a lot of subsidy and things free for the people.
Regarding the freebies debate, Tamil Nadu Finance Minister PTR, he's been very vocal about his views. He has very strong opinions on the debate, and he said this whole discussion, the whole debate by the Supreme Court and the Union government is a debate in inanity. And yes, a few days back we saw the Supreme Court pulling up the DMK. In fact, they said DMK is not the only wise party, and don't think we are not,
PTR is a dear friend of mine. I mean, I think to be fair, that he gets a little bit more attention because it's a novelty for Delhi media to suddenly find somebody from the Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam come there and speak the language which the Lutyens media understands. So there is a little bit of a fascination, and he gets a little bit more attention than would any other finance minister in India would get. But he is right in the sense saying that debate cannot be, that the BJP sort of has a double standard when they say this. But whether the Supreme Court can actually look into an issue or not, that the Supreme Court is supreme. There is not an issue which the Supreme Court can't look into. So I understand, but there is he's got his style of communication, others have other style of communication. But the underlying point that the BJP has got double standards is valid.
And coming to Congress, the date to elect a new president for the party is coming up. What are we expecting? Is it going to be a non-Gandhi? Because there are reports that Ashok Gehlot has been asked to head the party. What can you
see? While we have technically an electoral process to elect the president, typically it's an exercise in consensus. And the consensus within the party, cadre, who are really the lifeline of the party, that Rahul Gandhi must head the party. That is the broad consensus within the party. I would say almost an unanimous consensus within the party. But there seems to be some reluctance from Mr. Rahul Gandhi to take it up. So there must be another consensus has to be formed now, and I think an exercise is being done to find a consensus which will sort of please everybody, and the Congress will find that consensus.
Of course, the party is going through a very tough phase, but do you think the party is also ceding space to others, like for example BJP in states like Telangana, Tamil Nadu, or the Aam Aadmi Party in Gujarat, Goa?
Yes, that is true, because you see, our electoral record has not been stellar. So I am somebody who never negates the data. And the data does suggest that we have done very poorly in 2014 and in 2019. That's a fact. And we have also not done exceedingly well in state elections. And even in states which we have sort of managed to do well, we have not been able to keep our flock. But that's because of the nefarious activities of the BJP. Yeah? But so we are not necessarily on a very strong wicket. We have to reposition ourselves. We have to re-articulate ourselves, and we have to reimagine and recapture the mind space of the people. And I hope this long march we are going to embark on from Kanyakumari to Kashmir will reconnect us with the people. Any public outreach program is always good for a political party, and for a large political party like the Congress. I think this march from Kanyakumari to Kashmir will first and foremost will enthuse the party cadre, at least on the route, and will also be a great tool for us to have an outreach. But we definitely need to recalibrate on many fronts. I openly admit that.
But the one main criticism is that even when when the Congress is strong in a certain state, the infighting spoils it for the party. Why is it that the party is not able to get a grip on that? They are unable to solve these infighting and so many defections happening.
See, the infighting is actually an exaggerated term.
Even in Tamil Nadu, you have so many factions.
The point
like
is,
Satyamurthy Bhavan will have one group protesting here, one group
no, you
protesting
see, the
here.
point is, the Congress party is not a monolithic, cadre-driven organization like the RSS. We are a large tent where people of very, very different backgrounds, diverse views come together. So there will be bound to be differences, but that never really affects our electoral performance. You see, when you talk about Tamil Nadu, yes, of course, we have lots of different opinions, difference of style of functioning. But when it comes to elections, everybody's united. There is always competition when who's going to be the candidate. Once the candidate comes, everybody's in. Have you ever heard of a Congress candidate losing because there have been differences within the unit? Never. We win elections because of the strength of the alliance and the political climate of the day. So internal party debates which come out in the open don't necessarily mean that the party is disunited or something like that. So I think it's a healthy sign. I think a party which allows people to have different voices is actually very healthy for democracy.
Speaking of desertions, we've been seeing so many senior Congress leaders leaving the party. Even yesterday, Jay Shehgal had, of course, quit the party. What do you think of that? And also the fact that, most of them are joining the BJP. Is there any chance of us seeing you going to BJP?
First and foremost, many people will have angst in a large organization because of organizational issues. And I understand that. I mean, I don't think there is anybody who in a large organization would say that everything is fine, especially when our record in elections has not been very, very good. So I understand that angst, I understand the disappointment, I understand the frustration people feel. But what I don't understand is that somebody leaving our party and joining the BJP, because it's 180 degrees different from us. See, that means you were never an ideological warrior. Politics is about ideology. You can't say that because I didn't get a ticket on Indigo from Madras to Bangalore, I'm taking SpiceJet. I mean, that option is not there in politics. You travel with a political party because you believe in a political party. So if you believe in what the Congress says, you can't believe in what the BJP says. They're completely different. So while I might be disappointed or I would want my party to do better, or maybe I will express my opinion about something in the party, there's no question of me leaving my ideological moorings and joining the BJP, which is completely different from what I believe in. I believe in individual liberty. I believe in secularism. I believe in a free market. I mean, the BJP, as I said, wants to create a Hindu Iran. They want a nation to be ruled by the equivalents of Ayatollah. There is absolutely no way. I mean, I might be successful within the Congress party. I might not be successful within the Congress party, but I am an ideological political traveler, and there is no way on earth I could be in any organization other than this large, secular, open organization like the Congress. It will be very, very difficult for me to be part of any other formation. And you will definitely not see me in the BJP because my dietary preferences will not suit the BJP.
And you spoke about the Bharat Jodo Yatra. It's going to kickstart in another few days. And Rahul Gandhi, of course, will be marching from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. How important is this for the Congress ahead of 2020?
See, as I said, any massive public outreach effort is welcome. See, I believe in the old style of politics of shaking hands and kissing babies, as they say. Whatever it might be, the fact that you actually physically see people, press flesh, meet them is the right way to connect. And in that way, this massive exercise with the Congress party, will definitely, enthuse the party cadre, definitely on the route. The party cadre are going to come out in large numbers in the route. There's no doubt about that. And if that is going to have a spillover effect and for us to outreach to the public at large, it's going to be only beneficial to the party. There are only pluses in this entire exercise and no minuses at all.
Coming to Tamil Nadu, after a certain point, the Congress hasn't been able to expand in this state. Now you reduced yourself to a position where you need to piggyback right on the DMK. Why hasn't the Congress been able to expand?
See, Tamil Nadu is actually a very presidential state, perhaps the first state to become very presidential in terms of its election. I mean, in realistically speaking, there have only been really 4 chief ministers who have won elections on their own strength. Now we could say 5. One was Aringaranna, followed by Kalaignar Karunanidhi, then MGR, and then Jayalalitha. Now Stalin as the clear leader of the DMK has been voted for. People vote for leaders in Tamil Nadu. People vote for a chief minister. They don't necessarily vote for a candidate or party or alliance. The first is they make up their mind who they want to see as chief minister. Then the other things follow. The Congress, unfortunately, after Kamarajar, has not been able to project anybody as a potential chief minister, which the people have got a fancy to. We did it once in '89 with Mr. G.K. Moopanar, and it was the ADMK was split. We did reasonably well, but we did not persist with it. And since then, we have never projected a chief ministerial candidate, and there has been no natural chief ministerial candidate coming from the system as well. If there is somebody who's a natural chief ministerial candidate, who the party and the public accept, I think there'll be a natural growth here. Without that, you will always have to be part of a formation to win. I mean, no party in Tamil Nadu anyway wins without an alliance. It's not just the Congress. Like electoral alliance is an absolute necessity in Tamil Nadu. But the fact that we are not able to reach an alliance is because we don't have a natural chief ministerial candidate who people sort of identify with, not necessarily as a chief minister, but as a potential chief minister.
But is somewhere Congress losing its identity in Tamil Nadu? Because for the DMK, there is the Dravidian ideology. For the BJP, there is the Hindutva ideology that they rely on.
No, I think the Congress, you got to understand, it cannot be pigeonholed into one little silo. That is the beauty of the Congress. The fact is, a free marketer like me can be in the Congress, whereas somebody who believes in a state economy and a socialist can also be in the Congress. The whole idea of the Congress is that it is a large canvas and a large tent. I mean, I am a believer in God. There are people who are ardent believers. So there are people who are believers but won't wear the religion on their sleeve. Everybody can coexist. Minorities can coexist. So that's the beauty of the Congress. The Congress should not be. In fact, I cannot be in a political party in which you have to have an identity which has to be inside in a peg. I can't. I can only be in a political party which allows me this freedom of expression about economics, about society, about everything. And that the Congress does. In Tamil Nadu, we are in a slightly odd position because we are in alliance with the ruling party, but we're not part of the government. So we don't get the perks and the power of government. At the same time, we are not technically opposition. So that's a very odd space to be in parliamentary democracy. And that's why it feels that the Congress doesn't exert its identity. That has to be corrected, in my opinion. We either have to be in government or we have to be in opposition. We can't be in this little no man's land.
But even then, every time there is a controversy, every time there is a wrong decision from the side of the government, the Congress is very reluctant to hit out the government or at least tell them, what they're doing.
That's the problem is that we don't have the freedom of an opposition party, neither do we have the luxury of a ruling party. And that has to be corrected.
Is that pulling the party back?
That position is actually almost an undefinable position in parliamentary democracy. And in my opinion, that needs to be corrected. And going forward, if I had to have a say, I would always say that if you're going to be part of an alliance and that alliance wins, we need to also be part of government. Without being part of government, to be in an alliance, in my opinion, is a detriment to the political party.
Who do you think is the main opposition party in Tamil Nadu today? Is it the AIADMK?
Obviously, the AIADMK. It is clearly the AIADMK is a large political party with deep roots in rural Tamil Nadu. And the power of the two-leaf symbol still exists. So this debate, just because the central government and the central PSUs give a lot of advertisement, you don't need to have a magnifying glass and a loudspeaker and give it to the BJP and think that somehow they're growing. They're not. The point is they get a disproportionate amount of attention because the media is obligated to give them that space. But in reality, it doesn't exist. The DMK is the principal political party in Tamil Nadu and the ADMK is the principal opposition party. There need not be any debate about this. As an organization with structure, it's only these two organizations.
And now that we're speaking about Tamil Nadu politics, what do you think of Annamalai, the new president of the BJP? Many say after him taking over the party, the BJP has become more aggressive in Tamil Nadu.
Aggressive, yes. But you see, you have to look at his background as well. So he's not again another ideological person moved in this Hindutva tradition who joined the party through this RSS Shaka and came there. He was a police officer. And all compliments to him for cracking the civil service exam, getting multiple degrees and joining the police service. Then he resigns from the police service. And from what I've read, that he was toying with the idea of joining a political party. And I think he was fondly hoping that Rajinikanth will form a party and he would go and pitchfork himself there. When that did not happen, he joins the BJP. So he's not an ideological warrior. He's basically an opportunist who's taken over the platform, the BJP, particularly the BJP is giving him as a national party and as a party which is ruling in government. And he's just leveraging it. So I really don't, I don't consider him as truly a person who's come through the firmament of the BJP, through the ethos of the BJP at all. So he's likely to change his tune as per his convenience in the future as well.
But what do you think of his brand of politics?
You see, he is getting a lot of publicity in Tamil Nadu because these central government and the central companies advertise a lot in the media here. So the media here has given him a megaphone and a magnifying glass, so it looks big, and they have the resources to organize events. So please understand, all the events any political party organizes is organized. Nothing is spontaneous. The average person on the street does not come to a political event. Everything is organized, and they have the resources to organize, and they're organizing large events. And the BJP is always known to outsource its organization to event management companies. They've always been good at that. I mean, any event of the Prime Minister, any event of the party is always outsourced to professional management companies, and they continue to do that. But I would not equate that with political growth here. Yes, visibly you're seeing more of them. You're hearing more of them, but does not necessarily mean they're winning the hearts and minds of the people of Tamil Nadu, who are very, very clear that they don't like the Hindutva brand of politics of the BJP.
So you're saying this aggressiveness may not translate into elections?
It might not. I mean, Mr. Seeman is exceedingly aggressive. He's very, very vocal, but his electoral results are limited. I mean, when Kamala Hassan came into the scene, he too was all over the place, but it did not necessarily translate into electoral victory. So the BJP is in an alliance, so they get the benefit of the alliance. They'll only be truly tested when they contest on their own. While they keep threatening they will contest on their own, hope they will actually contest on their own and prove their mettle.
But suddenly, there are these speculations also about the DMK going closer to the BJP. Everyone on social media has a theory that there is some kind of understanding between both parties, and that's the reason why.
See, the DMK is in government here, and the BJP is in government in the center. And as we say in Tamil, it's called Rajanga Uravugal. That has to be maintained. And if you are the chief minister, you need to have an equation with the prime minister, even if you are ideologically, diametrically opposed to each other. And I think the chief minister of Tamil Nadu is making that very, very clear. When he makes a political speech, he very clearly articulates that his party is completely opposed to the BJP ideologically. But he, as chief minister of Tamil Nadu, has to engage with the Prime Minister of India. I mean, the Indian government deals with the Taliban. I mean, we have reopened our embassy in Kabul. We are engaging with the Taliban. Can I say that the Indian government endorses the Taliban? This Hindutva government is endorsing this ultra fundamentalist Islamic thing. So they are both together. Can I say that? I can't. But that is the government of Afghanistan. India has to deal with Afghanistan. India has strategic interests in Afghanistan, has to deal with them. The same way that anybody who is a government in Tamil Nadu has to deal with the government of India. So that way they have to deal with it. And you have to be civil, cordial and diplomatic, which I think the chief minister is.
Do you agree with the criticism that the DMK is somewhere soft peddling Hindutva, or they're very conscious of this image of the party being anti-Hindu, something that...
See, the DMK itself speaks in multiple voices on this issue. I mean, there are still members of the DMK who are vehemently atheist. But the leadership, which is the chief minister, seems to have taken a much more broader outlook, saying that believers and non-believers coexist, and he acknowledges the fact that most people are believers. So they are going through an internal churn because their absolutism is getting diluted. So I don't think they're playing soft Hindutva at all. I don't think so at all. I don't understand what is this soft Hindutva. Hinduism is soft. I mean, it's always soft. It's always all-encompassing. It's always all engaging. It's always welcoming. So that is the way Hinduism is. The Hindutva of the BJP is all, they are making it into an Abrahamic religion. I mean, like the Abrahamic religions have a book and a code. That's what they want to be. And I always say this, the goal of the BJP is to make India a Hindu Iran. They want, like the Ayatollahs who rule there, they want a certain Hindutva clergy, for a better word, to rule India.
But you're also someone who criticized DMK MP Senthil Kumar. When he pointed out that only a Hindu priest was called for a Bhumi Pujan of a certain project, you said, what is wrong?
Yeah, the point is, I think there was much ado about nothing. I mean, he's the MP, the said MP is a friend of mine. Any ceremony which happens in India, when you buy a new car, I mean, I'm sure whatever faith you are, you'll put a little lime under the wheels. Or if you're crossing a temple or a church, you always look at it and say a silent prayer. That's it. So if there was a small public works being taken up, if somebody broke a coconut or put 4 bricks there and I did a small little ceremony, it's normal. You look at every event of the government of the Tamil Nadu, where even including the chief minister and others participate, there's always some little local traditional ritual which is being followed. So to make a big brouhaha about it was completely unnecessary. That's the whole point. I think, as I said, the DMK itself is going through this little churn from this absolutism to a little bit more of an all-encompassing and adjusting behavior.
And one last question. Do you see the DMK and Congress being in an alliance for the 2024 elections? Or do you think there are a lot of factors that could come in the way of the alliance?
See, at the moment, the alliance is very strong. We have convergence on most issues. We definitely have a convergence on the fact that we don't want a Hindutva politics in Tamil Nadu. We have convergence on the debate of federalism and the Union of India. Yes, we do. We will have differences. We have differences. I mean, if we don't have differences, we both will become one political party. We will have differences. But I think the overall convergence is far greater than the differences. And I think the political equation is good between both the political parties. The arithmetic works. The arithmetic is, you have to please understand that the Congress is not merely an addition. It's always a multiplier in elections. When we stand by ourselves, we get a certain vote. The minute we are part of a formation, the vote is a multiplier. Because minorities, particularly people of the minority faith, always get a little bit more confidence in a formation which has the Congress. So I think the alliance is a winning alliance. It will continue, and I think we will win in 2024 as well in Tamil Nadu.
Thank you so much for your time.